Let's look at a few examples of how the camera tool in SeeSaw can be helped to support teaching and learning in your classroom. I want to share a few examples of how my science students use the photo tool to capture and describe phenomena. And maybe it can stimulate in your brain what are those things that you do in your classroom that are ephemeral, that are here today, gone tomorrow, that you could capture and save using the SeeSaw photo tool. In the upper left-hand corner is an example of a whiteboard where the students collected data from a STEM challenge in my physics class. Again, with a whiteboard, we'd erase it at the end of class, so it'd be ready for my next class period. But doing this, we can upload the data, I can grade it from their SeeSaw portfolio, and the students can use it to then reflect upon to improve the next day, maybe if they had to revisit that STEM challenge. In the lower left, we have an image from a dissection of a kidney. The students were instructed to take a photo of the dissected kidney and then use the SeeSaw drawing and labeling tools to annotate the various anatomical features and then to use the record feature to explain what each of those parts does in terms of kidney function. In the middle of the screen, you're going to see a fruit battery from our fruit battery design challenge. The students had to capture their fruit battery, including a visible image of the voltage that was produced. Then they used the labeling tool to identify the anode and cathode, and the drawing tool to show the direction of electron flow. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see an example from my AP chemistry class. I projected a collection of photoelectron spectra up on the screen. This compares helium, neon, and argon. And the students had to take a photo of it and then record an explanation of what causes the different peaks. So you'll notice that there are some drawings on here, and there is a play button because this is a screen capture of a student's description of these different photoelectron spectra and what causes the trends in the binding energy. In the upper right-hand corner, students took a photo of atomic emission spectra produced via a flame test, and then they had to record an explanation using the drawing and record tools of what happens inside the atom to produce that color. In the lower right, we've got our egg cart crash test from our physics class, where obviously this is something that's going to be destroyed as we do our egg cart crash test, as we put the cart on different angles of a ramp and see how successfully it is at protecting the egg. So you'll notice the students took a photo of their design, and then they used the label and draw tools to describe the different design features. In this case, we had our Microscope Lab, where the students held up their cell phone or iPad camera to the lens of the microscope and were able to capture these incredible images of the different cell and tissue samples that we looked at. I love Selfie Science, is what I call it. It's when the students are the star of the show, and here are a few examples of Selfie Science. In the left-hand side, students had to create human molecular geometry models. You'll notice the one young lady here is wearing a hat, this little orange hat that represents the lone pair. And just for reference, this represents something called the SeeSaw geometry, which I thought was most appropriate for this talk. In the middle, the students had to do organ selfies, where they took a photo of their lab partner and drew in an organ to scale, and then they recorded a description of how form follows function for that organ, what that organ actually does, and why it's shaped and designed the way it is. On the right-hand side, you'll see the student was a model for the anatomical directions, superior and inferior, etc. This is such a powerful tool. Another way to use it is to create your own mini lesson or review. What you'll see here is this is a photo of the periodic table in the front of my classroom. Before my students took a quiz on just the basic layout of the periodic table, I recorded this mini lesson for them and shared it via SeeSaw so that they could view and review the major topics of the periodic table. I created these labels using the photo tool in advance, and what you'll see when I play this video is that I move them around as I start to describe the different features. So let's take a look at this. Let's review how elements are organized in the periodic table. It's called the periodic table because first they are organized in periods. Period refers to the row that the element is in the periodic table. Elements in the same period have the same number of energy levels. Hydrogen, right here, and helium are in the first period. Both of those neutral elements have one energy level. So as you'll notice, I was able to move that label upward, and if we go forward in the video, you'll notice that I'm moving the labels and talking about different features. Metals tend to lose their electrons in chemical reactions. They also tend to be ductile. So this was actually a wonderful tool, and my students did very, very well on the quiz. But it took me all of about 10 minutes to create this mini lesson to help them review of the major features and the arrangement of elements in the periodic table. So again, those are all science ideas because they came from my classroom. The photo tool, I think every time I use it, I find a new way to enhance student learning. Here are some brainstormed examples of how you could use it in your classroom. The first one refers to saving anything that's here today, gone tomorrow. So use the photo tool to add student artwork, models, posters, diagrams, or STEM challenges to their portfolio. Another thing is you could do book snaps. This would be where a student takes a photo of a particular section of text or a graphic, and then they annotate it using SeeSaw. Maybe they highlight a particular set of words, or they describe why they think this is the most important paragraph on the page, how it illustrates the character. You could also use it as a math chat, where the students solve a math problem and then they take a photo and record an explanation of how they arrived at their solution. Another thing is you could set them loose on photo walks. Have them go around the room, around the campus, finding different examples of whatever applies to your curriculum, maybe different shapes, different angles, different habitats, different settings, etc., and uploading it to their portfolio, and then they can use the label, draw, and record tools as you see fit to help explain why they chose that particular image. Again, this photo tool is an incredibly powerful way to enhance student learning in your classroom.